This girl wanted that particular fish to be prepared. So as they were frying this dried fish, and it was as if the entire house was being fumigated, such an odor could raise the dead. The mother went into the kitchen to tell the cooks how to prepare it, but the moment the stink began to emanate from the frying pan, she ran out of the kitchen because she could not stand it. Meanwhile, the girl who was in the bedroom also smelled it and ran out, following the scent. Both the mother and the daughter crashed headlong into each other, and the mother ended up with a broken nose. I mention this incident not as an illustration of reward and punishment, but as an illustration of the possible consequences of strong attachment and aversion. When these dominate your life, some kind of smash-up is inevitable. Vasanas or tendencies are generated by a vast accumulation of impressions, caused by your physical, mental and energy actions. What you call your personality is just an expression of these tendencies. Now, today, if you are doing something in a particular way, and someone asks you why you can't do it differently, you often declare, "This is my nature, can't I do what I want?" This is not your nature. You are not doing what you want. These tendencies have become compulsive. This is your bondage, a kind of software you are writing for yourself unconsciously. Once your software is fixed, it looks as if there is only one path you can walk in your life. It looks as if your destiny is predetermined. A spiritual process, however, means we have made up our minds to rewrite our software consciously. In India, karma is a common word. If people exhibit any kind of compulsive behavior, others will immediately say, "Oh, that's their karma." This means that it is of their making. The bitterness or sweetness of any experience is not in the event itself, but in how you perceive and respond to it. What is a very bitter experience for one person could be a blessing for another. Once a grief-stricken man sat by a gravestone crying bitterly and hitting his head against it. "My life, oh, how senseless it is! My body is a worthless carcass now that you have gone. If only you had lived, if only fate had not been so cruel, if only you hadn't left, how different my life would have been." A clergyman nearby overheard him and said, "I assume the person lying beneath this mound of earth was someone of great importance to you." "Importance? Yes, indeed," wept the man, wailing even louder. "It was my wife's first husband." So the quality of your life is always decided by how you experience life, not by what life offers you. It is important to remember that karma is not a negative word. Karma is what gives stability and structure to your life. Every moment, impressions are flooding in torrents into your system through your 5 sense organs, and each of them is being recorded. There is nothing wrong with this stored information. It is very useful for your survival. If you deleted all of it, you would not know how to handle even the simplest aspects of life. The spiritual process does not seek to demolish the storehouse of karmic impressions, but helps you to become more conscious of it and establish a little space which allows you to stand outside of it. So your software is not in itself the problem. It turns into a problem only if it becomes the ruling factor in your life. To talk of good karma and bad karma is like talking of good bondage and bad bondage. There is no such thing. Karma is just your own creation. It is neither good nor bad. It is software that can be useful if you have some freedom from it. This is all the spiritual process aims to do, loosen the grip of karma upon you. Whatever be the nature of your past karma, there is enough awareness in a human being to take complete charge of the karma of the present moment. If you want any kind of transformation, any kind of forward movement in your life, it can only happen if you break the cyclical patterns of karma. Anything that is cyclical suggests constant motion, but it doesn't really go anywhere. If you are sensitive to life, you realize this early. If you are less sensitive, you realize this as you grow older. Everything may seem to be going your way. Your professional life may be flourishing, your capital may be increasing, your family may be thriving, but you are not really getting anywhere. The faster you achieve your success, the faster you realize this. To be human means you can mold situations you are living in the way you want them. But today most people in the world are molded by the situations in which they exist. This is simply because they live in reaction to situations they are placed in. The inevitable question is, why was I placed in such a situation? Isn't it my destiny? Whatever we do not want to take responsibility for, whatever we cannot make sense of logically, we label destiny. It is a consoling word, but disempowering. To mold situations the way you want them, you must first know who you are. The crux of the matter is that you do not yet know who you are. Who you are is not the sum total of accumulations you have made. Everything that you currently know as myself is an accumulation. Your body is just an accumulation of food. Your mind is just an accumulation of impressions gathered through 5 senses. What you accumulate can be yours, but it can never be you. Who then are you? That is yet to come into your experience. That is still in an unconscious state. You are trying to live your life through what you have gathered, not through who you are. What's more, you are not even 100% conscious of what you have gathered. You have acquired certain tendencies over the years, depending on the impressions you have accumulated. These can be transformed entirely. If you do a certain amount of inner work, if you implement certain inner technologies, irrespective of your current tendencies, your past experience of life, your genetics, your environment, you can completely rewire yourself in a short span of time. Everything in this existence is happening naturally according to a certain organic law. If you know the nature of life within you, you can completely take charge of the way it happens, but within the broad parameters set by the laws of nature. What do we mean by this? Let us look at a concrete example. Although we are wingless creatures, we have still in the last 100 years managed to fly. How? Not by breaking the laws of nature, but through a deeper understanding of the laws of nature. So the technology we are going to explore in this book is a small part of the much deeper science that eventually enables an adept to take the very process of life and death into his or her hands. Your destiny is written by you unconsciously. If you have mastery over your physical body, 15 to 20% of your life and destiny will be in your hands. If you have mastery over your mind, 50 to 60% of your life and destiny will be in your hands. If you have mastery over your life energies, 100% of your life and destiny will be in your hands. Even now, you are choosing your life, but you are choosing it in total unawareness. But whatever you do in unawareness, you can also do it in awareness. That makes a world of difference. This is the difference between ignorance and enlightenment. Unpleasantness is happening to you in the form of anger, fear, anxiety and stress because your basic faculties, your body, mind and life energies are doing their own thing. When mind and body exist only to serve the life within you, Why is your life currently enslaved to the mind and body? Isn't this a complete distortion of the way life should function? Taking destiny into your hands does not mean everything will happen your way. The outside world will never happen 100% your way, because there are too many variables involved. Wanting the outside to happen exactly the way you choose is the path of conquest, tyranny, dictatorship. Once it happened. Shankaran Pillai, a certain Indian gentleman you met in the introduction and will meet several times more in the course of this book, went drinking with his buddies. He thought he would have a quick drink and go home at 8 o'clock. And so he did. He had a quick drink and a quick drink and a quick drink and a quick drink, and then one more quick drink. He looked at his watch and it said 2 a.m. Drink makes people like yogis timeless. He got off the bar stool. It is such an unfair world. A man is expected to walk on a round planet that spins. With great skill and dexterity he balanced himself and started making his journey homeward. Taking a shortcut through a park, he fell headlong into a rose bush. His face became a mess. He gathered himself and started making his way again. In this condition, he reached home and tried to find the keyhole, but these wretched keyholes nowadays are made so small. That took another 20 minutes. He finally got in and stumbled into the bedroom. Fortunately, the wife was a big sleeper. He went into the bathroom, looked at himself in the mirror. His face was a real mess. He opened the medicine cabinet, took out some medicine, a box of band-aids, and fixed himself up. Then he crawled quietly into bed. Next morning, his wife threw a bucket of cold water on his face. He woke up gasping, feeling waterboarded. He said, Why, it's only a Sunday." She said, "You fool, once again drinking?" "No, honey, I promised you 6 months ago. Since then I haven't touched a drop." She held him by the shirt, dragged him into the bathroom and showed him the band-aids were all over the mirror. When pain, misery or anger happen, it is time to look within you, not around you. To achieve well-being, the only one who needs to be fixed is you. What you forget is that when you are sick, it is you who needs the medication. When you are hungry, it is you who needs the food. The only one that needs to be fixed is you. But just to understand this simple fact, people take lifetimes. Creating your own destiny does not mean you have control over every situation in the world. Creating your destiny is about steadily heading towards your well-being and your ultimate nature, no matter what the content of life is around you. It simply means making yourself in such a way that whatever the events and situations around you, you don't get crushed by them, you ride them. The spiritual process is not about imposing your ideas on existence. It is about making yourself in such a way that the creation and the creator, every atom in this existence, cannot help yielding to you. When you pursue your own likes and dislikes, you feel alone in this vast existence, constantly insecure, unstable, psychologically challenged. But once existence yields to you, it delivers you to a different place of grace, where every pebble, every rock, every tree, every atom speaks to you in a language you understand. Every moment there are a million miracles happening around you, a flower blossoming, a bird tweeting, a bee humming, a raindrop falling, a snowflake wafting along the clear evening air. There is magic everywhere. If you learn how to live it, life is nothing short of a daily miracle. It doesn't matter who you are, life doesn't work for you unless you do the right things. You may consider yourself a good person, but if you don't water your garden, will it flower? You need to do the right things if you want results. Judgments about good and bad are essentially human and socially conditioned. These are fine as social norms, but existence is not concerned with these conclusions. Existence is not judgmental. It treats all of us the same way. One winter morning in Michigan, an old-timer went ice fishing. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. He cut a small hole in the ice and sat down with a crate of beer beside him. Fishing is not just about the catch. It is a patience game. He knew that. He put the line in. One by one, the beer cans started emptying out. The fishing basket also stayed empty. The day drew on. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, his basket was still empty, so was his crate of beer. A young boy came along. He was carrying a big boom box that played deafening heavy metal music. He cut a hole in the ice nearby and sat down to fish, his music still blaring. Can you then respond to the moon? You can. Your body and life energy certainly do. When entire oceans rise in response to the cycles of the moon, do you think the water content in your own system doesn't rise as well? Maybe you're not an astronaut. Maybe you can never walk on the moon, but you can respond to the moon. In fact, you already do. You can just choose to do it willingly, consciously. And that brings us to the fourth misconception. Many think responsibility means capability. Wrong again. When it comes to action, capability could play a role, but when it comes to response, it is just a question of willingness. If you see someone dying on the street, are you responsible? If you are willing to respond, you will explore various options. If you are a doctor, you will try direct intervention. If you are not, you may call 911. Or if all this is being done by someone else, you will at least have concern in your heart. But if you think you are not responsible, you will just sit there like a stone, watching someone die before your eyes. Your ability to respond is the way you are. Only your ability to act is connected with the outside world. Responsibility is not about talking, thinking, or doing. Responsibility is about being. That's the way life is, not an independent, self-contained bubble, but a moment-to-moment dialogue with the universe. You don't have to work at making it that way. You just have to see it the way it is. Let us deepen the exploration. If responsibility is response ability, the capacity to be responsive to situations, let me ask you another question. Is your ability to respond limited or limitless? Are you capable of responding to a plant? You are. To a stranger on the street? You are. To the moon? You are. To the sun, to the stars? You are. To the whole cosmos? You are. In fact, as we have seen, every subatomic particle in your body is responding in a limitless way to the great dance of energies that is the cosmos. The only reason you are not experiencing the life process in all its majesty and profundity is your current state of mental resistance. Your psychological structure is a stone wall. If you are willing, every moment of your life can be a fantastic experience. Just the act of inhaling and exhaling can be a tremendous love affair. Why is the mind resisting this? Because it is crippled by its own limited logic which says, taking responsibility for just 2 people already gives me a headache. If I take responsibility for the whole world, what will happen? I will crack up. Through millions of years of evolution, nature has caged you within certain boundaries. This is the human predicament. But the imprisonment is only on the level of biology. On the level of human consciousness, you are like a bird in a cage without a door. What a tragic irony. It is only out of long eons of habit that you are refusing to fly free. Life has left everything open for you. Existence has not blocked anything for anyone. If you are willing, you can access the whole universe. Someone said, "Knock and it shall open." You don't even have to knock because there is no door. It is open. You just have to walk through, that's all. This is the sole purpose of spiritual process. The life and work of every spiritual guide across history and across culture has been just this, to point out that the cage door does not exist. Whether you fly or choose to remain in the limitations of the cage, let that be a conscious choice. The possibility of ultimate freedom may seem deeply threatening to many. Yes, it is a threat, but only to your limitations. Do you want to live a life of voluntary self-imprisonment, limiting your responsibility to suffocate yourself on various levels, physically, intellectually, and emotionally? Unfortunately, this stifling of life is understood by people as safety, as security. Let us say you decide starting tomorrow, I will get up at 5 in the morning and go for a walk. You set the alarm rings, you begin to stir, but your body groans and says, "Shut up and sleep." That is often the way it is, isn't it? So Hatha Yoga is a way of working with the body, a way of disciplining, purifying and preparing it for higher levels of energy and for greater possibilities. Hatha Yoga is not exercise. It is instead about understanding the mechanics of the body, creating a certain atmosphere, and then using physical postures to channel or drive your energy in specific directions. This is the aim of various asanas or postures. That kind of posture that allows you to access your higher nature is a yogasana. It is the science of aligning your inner geometry with the cosmic geometry. To put it in the simplest way, just by observing the way some people sit, you can almost know what is happening with them. If you have known them for long enough, if you have observed yourself, when you're angry you sit one way, if you're happy you sit another way, if you're depressed you sit another way. For every different level of consciousness or psychological state, your body naturally tends to assume certain postures. The converse of this is the science of asanas. If you consciously get your body into different postures, you can elevate your consciousness. The body can become a means for your spiritual growth or it can become a barrier. Let us suppose some part of your body, your hand, leg or back for instance, is in pain. When the pain is acute, it is hard to aspire to anything higher because the pain becomes dominant in your life. Right now, if you have a backache, the biggest issue in the universe is your back. Other people may not understand that, but for you, that is the biggest issue. Even if God appears before you, you will plead for your backache to go away. You will not ask for anything else because the physical body has such power over you. When it doesn't function as it should, it can rob your life of every other aspiration. All your longings just disappear once the body is in pain. To experience pain and still look beyond it takes an enormous amount of strength, which most people do not possess. There are countless people who have come out of spinal problems by doing simple asanas. Doctors had told them that they would have to undergo surgery, but they were able to avoid it altogether. Your back can be restored to such an excellent condition that you never need to visit a chiropractor again. It is not only your spine that becomes flexible, you become flexible as well. Once you're flexible, you're willing to listen. It is not about hearing someone talk, you're willing to listen to life. Learning to listen is the essence of intelligent living. Dedicating a certain amount of effort and time to see that the body does not become a barrier is important. A painful body can become an obstacle, and so can a compulsive body. Simple compulsions, whether of hunger or lust, can rule you so strongly that they will not allow you to look beyond the physical. It is easy to forget that the physical body is only a part of you. It is important that it does not become the whole of you. Asanas help level the physical body down to its natural place. As you move into deeper dimensions of meditation, your energies will surge upward, opening up more profound dimensions of experience. It is very important, therefore, that the pipeline of the body is conducive. If it is blocked, it will not work, and so preparing the body sufficiently before one goes into more intense forms of meditation is very important. Hatha Yoga ensures that the body takes the upsurge of energy smoothly and joyfully. For a lot of people, spiritual growth happens very painfully because the necessary preparation has not taken place. Most human beings have unfortunately allowed themselves to be molded entirely by external situations. It is becoming a norm in the world that growth happens only painfully. It can also happen blissfully, but that is when both body and mind have been prepared. Asanas can prepare you for growth and transformation by equipping you with a solid and stable foundation. They are core perspectives that have emerged as a consequence of the state of heightened awareness that has been mine since a life-transforming experience 35 years ago. The section begins on an autobiographical note. This is so you know something about the authorial company you will be keeping should you choose to read the rest of the book. The section then unfolds into an examination of certain basic ideas, exploring along the way some commonly used and misused terms such as destiny, responsibility, well-being, and even more fundamentally, yoga. One of the chapters in this section closes with a sadhana. The word sadhana in Sanskrit means a device or a tool. These tools for exploration offer a chance for you as a reader to put the ideas discussed in those pages into action and see if the insights work for you. These sadhanas will recur much more frequently in section 2. I am often told by people that I seem to be a modern guru. My response to that observation is that I am neither modern nor ancient, neither new age nor old age. I am contemporary, and that is how every guru has always been. Only scholars, pundits and theologians are capable of being ancient or modern. A philosophy or belief system can be old or new, but gurus are always contemporary. A guru, as I said earlier, is someone who dispels darkness, someone who opens the door for you. If I promise to open a door for you tomorrow, or I opened it for someone else yesterday, it is of no relevance. Only if I open the door for you today is it of some value. So, the truth is timeless, but the technology and the language are always contemporary. If they weren't, they would deserve to be discarded. No tradition, however time-honored, deserves to live on as anything more than a museum piece if it has outlived its relevance. So while I will be exploring an ancient technology in this book, it is also technology that is flawlessly state-of-the-art. Personally, I am not interested in offering anything new. I am only interested in what is true. But I hope the following section will offer you some moments when the two converge. For at those junctures, when the conditions are right, when an insight is articulated from a place of inner clarity, when it meets a reader at the right moment of receptivity, an age-old truth turns explosively alchemical. All of a sudden, it is fresh, alive, radiantly new, as if uttered and heard for the very first time in history. When I lost my sense, then I was a man. I only went up the hill as I had time to kill. But kill I did all that was me and mine. With me and mine gone, lost all my will and skill. Here I am, an empty vessel, enslaved to the divine will and infinite skill. In the city of Mysore, there is a tradition. If you have something to do, you go up Chamundi Hill. If you have nothing to do, you go up Chamundi Hill. If you fall in love, you go up Chamundi Hill. If you fall out of love, you have to go up Chamundi Hill. One afternoon, I had nothing to do and I had recently fallen out of love, so I went up Chamundi Hill. I parked my motorcycle and sat on an outcrop of rock about 2/3 of the way uphill. This was my contemplation rock. It had been for some time now. A purple-berry tree and a stunted banyan had put down tenacious roots into a deep fissure in the rock surface. A panoramic view of the city unfolded before me. There is another choice. You could simply see the situation the way it is and take responsibility for it. Taking responsibility is not accepting blame instead of assigning it. It simply means consciously responding to the situation. Once you take responsibility, you will invariably start exploring ways to address the situation. You will look for solutions. If you are constantly in this mode, your ability to craft your life situations will keep enhancing themselves. With this enhanced competence to deal with life and its multiple complexities, you begin to rise to positions of possibility and power. If you assume absolute responsibility within yourself for all that is around you, you will become the center of any situation at home, work, or even the universe. Since you become indispensable to these situations, there is no sense of insecurity or incompleteness within you anymore. Only if you realize you're responsible do you have the freedom to create yourself the way you want to be, not as a reaction to the situations in which you exist. Reactivity is enslavement. Responsibility is freedom. When you are able to create yourself the way you want, you can create your life the way you want as well. Your outer life may not be 100% in your control, but your inner life always is. On the other hand, the first reaction, anger, usually provokes unintelligent action. Anger is fundamentally self-defeating. If you look at your life closely, you will find that you have done the most idiotic and life-negative things when you were angry. Above all, you were working against yourself. If you work against yourself, if you sabotage your own well-being, you are obviously choosing stupidity as a way of life. I am not propounding a moral argument here. I am not telling you that you should not lose your temper because it is ethically wrong. If anger is a pleasant experience, blow your top. What is the problem? The point is, it is singularly unpleasant for you and for those at the receiving end. It is also counterproductive and therefore inefficient. I am not offering a rage control or anger management strategy either. When I first came to United States, I heard everybody talking about stress management. It puzzled me. Why would anybody want to manage stress? I always thought we managed the things that are precious to us. our money, our business, our family. It took me time to see that people have assumed that stress is an inevitable part of their lives. They do not see that it is entirely self-created and self-inflicted. Once you take charge of your inner life, there is no such thing as stress. The point is that anger is rooted in your false perception that you can change the situation by losing your temper with it. But your life experience tells you, time and again, that the reverse is true, that you can never change any situation for the better by forsaking your sense and intelligence. You only mess up your situations by getting angry. Once you see that clearly, you have taken the first step towards transformation. Besides, there is substantial medical and scientific evidence to prove that in a state of anger, you are literally poisoning your system. This can be verified with something as simple as a blood test. When you're angry, your very chemistry is altered. Your system turns toxic. Intense activity and sleep are times when this chemical mess can undo itself. But if you are in frequent states of rage, you are heading towards physical and psychological disaster. There is no doubt about this. There is a commonly held belief that rage produces results and that nothing happens in the world without the adrenaline rush of anger. The iconic figure of the Cuban Revolution, Che Guevara, famously said something like this, "If you are in rage, you are one of us." Perhaps that is true, but in rage, you become one with the group. Out of rage, you become one with the universe. The question is, do you want to be a full-time human being or a part-time human being? If you restrict your ability to respond, the scope and dimension of your experience will be unsurprising, predictable, limited, narrow. But to be an absolutely full-time human being is to be a constant, full-blooded response to everything. You don't have to do anything in particular. You just need to become a willing piece of life in this glorious living cosmos. Responsibility is not burdensome. Boundaries are burdensome. If you draw yourself a boundary, whether of ideology, caste, creed, race or religion, you cannot move beyond it and you end up stuck for no reason at all. These boundaries only end up breeding fear, hatred and anger. The bigger your boundary, the more burdensome it becomes. But if your responsibility is limitless, where is the boundary? No boundary, no burden. This is the turnaround in human consciousness that needs to take place. Once this happens, it is not that cosmos begins to happen your way. Instead, what you are becomes cosmic. This is not transcendence. This is homecoming. Sadhana. Don't simply believe what you are reading. The only way to find out whether something is true or untrue is to experiment with it. Stop the internal debate and simply put it to the test. The yogic path is not a path of inherited belief. It is a path of experiment. Here is a practical way to begin. When you have your next meal, do not talk to anyone around you for the first 15 minutes. Just be in active, conscious response to the food that you eat, the air that you breathe, and the water that you drink. As I have said earlier, your entire system is responding anyway. Just become conscious of it. This apple, this carrot, this piece of bread, don't take them lightly. If you do not eat for a couple of days, you won't think about God, you will only think about food. This is what is nourishing you, making your life right now. This is the very substance of your body. respond to food absolutely, with total attention. This fruit, this egg, this bread, this vegetable, they're all a part of life themselves. But they are willing to become you. Would you be willing to do this for anyone? You are not willing to lose your identity and merge into anyone. You are not even willing to surrender your little finger for someone else. Momentarily, you surrender just a little, usually when you need something. Your love affairs are the product of very calculated surrender. But food, which is a life unto itself, gives itself up completely to become a part of you. Later, without even uttering a sentence aloud, take the simple idea. My responsibility is limitless. If I am willing, I can respond to everything, into the entire day. Be conscious of it until the last moment before you fall asleep and remind yourself of it the first thing when you wake up. If you sustain this awareness of your limitless nature for just 1 full minute, you will achieve tremendous transformation. A minute may seem very simple, but you will see it will take a certain level of application to arrive at this. Just 1 minute can elevate you to a different dimension of experience and function. Right now, your awareness is erratic. This moment you're aware, and the next moment you're gone. It is okay. Every hour, remind yourself, experiment with this awareness, allow it to deepen, and see what happens. Conscious response brings you to a profound and enduring state of connectedness with life, not as an idea or an emotion, but life as life is. In this willing, active involvement with life, you are embraced by it, and the embrace takes you to the very source of creation. That is all it takes to touch the Creator. Just willingness, nothing else. An enormous amount of knowledge about consecration has been perpetuated across generations since ancient times, particularly in India. This is because, regardless of how good your life is or how long you live, at some point the fundamental human longing to get in touch with the source of creation will invariably assert itself. If the possibility to access these deeper dimensions is not created and made available to every individual who seeks, then that society has failed to provide authentic well-being for its citizens. It is because of this awareness that the Indian culture built numerous temples on every street. The idea was not to create temples that were in competition with one another. The idea was simply that no one should live in a space that is not consecrated. It is tremendous good fortune for a human being to live in a consecrated space. When you do, the very way you live becomes distinctly different. You may ask, "Can't I live without it?" You can. If you know how to make your very body into a temple, going to the temple is not so significant. Yes, you can consecrate your own body, but the question is, are you able to keep it that way? All spiritual initiations have been aimed at consecrating this very flesh into a temple-like space. After that, all that is needed is maintenance. Doing a spiritual practice every day is one way of trying to maintain the human system in a high state of vibrancy after an initiation. I have given powerful consecrations to people at various times, sometimes formally, sometimes informally. To consecrate an inanimate object, a rock for example, costs an enormous amount of life. Making human beings into living temples is much more inexpensive and eco-friendly. And besides, they are mobile. There are many advantages, but the problem is human beings have to dedicate a certain amount of time, energy and focus to maintenance. Otherwise, it will not work. When people in the world are too distracted and unwilling to make themselves into living temples, building stone temples becomes a necessity. The basic purpose of building a temple is to benefit the majority of people who have no spiritual practice in their lives. If one can do some spiritual practice in such a consecrated space, it is doubly beneficial, particularly for those who do not know how to make their own body into a temple. The outer temple is invaluable. Consecration or pratishtha is done in various ways, but generally by using rituals, mantras, sounds, forms, and various other ingredients. Constant maintenance is required. The rituals in the temples are not for your sake, they are to keep the deity or energy form alive. What is a deity? A deity is a tool for a specific purpose to achieve fulfillment in different aspects of life. In fact, the traditional word for a deity is yantra, which literally translates as a machine or a working energy form. Traditional wisdom has always advised people against keeping stone idols at home. If you keep them, you must maintain them every day with the right kind of processes. If a deity is consecrated through mantras, and if the necessary maintenance does not happen on a daily basis, the deity becomes a withdrawing energy and can cause immense harm to people who live in the vicinity. Unfortunately, many temples have become like this because of improper maintenance by people who do not know how to keep them alive. Prana pratishtha is different in that it uses your own life energies to consecrate something. When you consecrate a form in this way, it does not need any maintenance. It is quite literally forever. When I fulfilled my mission, which was the consecration of the Dhyanalinga, a subtle energy form with all chakras operating at their optimal capacity at the Isha Yoga Center in Coimbatore, in southern India, in the year 1999. It was through prana pratishtha. This is why there are no rituals in the shrine. None is required. Dhyanalinga does not need any maintenance because its vibrancy will never fluctuate. Even if you take away the stone part of the structure, it will remain the same. Irrespective of physical changes that may happen over time, the energy form will not perish. This is because the real form is made of a non-physical dimension. It is indestructible. I would often climb to the topmost branch of a big tree with my lunch box and water bottle. The swaying motion of the branches would transport me to a trance-like state where I was asleep but wide awake at the same time. I would lose all sense of time on this tree. I would be perched there from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4:30 in the evening when the bell rang and the school was done. Much later, I realized unknowingly I was becoming meditative at this stage of my life. Later, when I first instructed people into meditations, it was always swaying meditations. Of course, I hadn't even heard of the word meditation at this point. I simply liked the way trees swayed me into a state beyond sleep and wakefulness. I found the classroom dull, but I was interested in everything else. The way the world is made, the physical terrain of the land, the way people live. I used to take my bicycle along the mud roads in the countryside, riding a minimum of 35 kilometers a day. By the time I came home, I would be caked with layers of mud and dust. I particularly enjoyed making mental maps of the terrain I traveled. I could just close my eyes when I was alone and redraw the entire landscape that I'd seen that afternoon. Every single rock, every outcrop, every single tree. I was fascinated by the different seasons, the way the land changes when it is plowed, when the crops start germinating. That is what drew me to the work of Thomas Hardy, his descriptions of the English landscape, which go on for pages on end, I was doing the same thing in my head with the world around me. Even today, it is like a video in my head. If I want, I can replay the whole thing, those years and years of all that I observed with vivid clarity. I was a die-hard skeptic. Even at the age of 5, when my family went to the temple, I had questions, lots of them. Who is God? Where is He? Up there? Where is up? A couple of years later, I had even more questions. In school, they said the planet was round, but if the planet was round, how did one know which way was up? No one ever managed to answer these questions, so I never entered the temple. This meant they were compelled to leave me in the custody of the footwear attendant outside. The attendant held me by the arm in a vice-like grip, pulling and tugging me around with him as he did his business. He knew that if he looked the other way, I'd be gone. Later in my life, I couldn't help noticing that people coming out of restaurants always had more joyful faces than those coming out of temples. That intrigued me. And yet, while I was skeptic, I never identified with that label either. I had lots of questions about everything, but never felt the need to draw any conclusions. I realized very early that I knew nothing about anything. That meant I ended up paying enormous attention to everything around me. If someone gave me a glass of water, I stared at it endlessly. If I picked up a leaf, I stared at it endlessly too. I stared at the darkness all night. If I looked at a pebble, the image would rotate interminably in my mind, so I would know its every grain, its every angle. I also saw that language was no more than a conspiracy devised by human beings. If someone spoke, I realized they were only making sounds. I was making up the meanings. So I stopped making up meanings, and the sounds became very amusing. I could see patterns spewing out of their mouths. If I kept staring, the person would just disintegrate and turn into a blob of energy. Then all that was left was patterns. In this state of absolute borderless ignorance, just about anything could hold my attention. My dear father, being a physician, began to think I needed psychiatric evaluation. If you learn to bow, to hold everything higher than yourself, it does not seem to be good for your self-esteem, but becoming a devotee does not mean you are a pushover. That which knows how to bend will not break. That is so with everything within you. Unfortunately, these days, even so-called spiritual leaders are talking about self-esteem. Self and esteem are both a problem. Both are very limited entities. Both are fragile. Both will always be insecure. If you have no esteem, very good. If you have no self, fabulous. Sadhana. When you experience something as far bigger than yourself, bowing down will naturally occur to you. If you want to become a devotee, at least once an hour in all the waking moments of your life, put your hands together and bow to something. It does not matter who or what. Don't choose. Whatever you see, just bow your head. Whether it is a tree, a mountain, a dog, a cat, or anything. This need not be a physical act, it could be internal action. Just do it throughout the day, once an hour. See if it can become once a minute. When it becomes once a minute, there is no need to use your hands and body. Simply do it within yourself. Once that becomes your way of being, you are a devotee. Even if you spend a lifetime, you still will not understand a leaf, an elephant, an ant, or an atom. You are incapable of figuring out even a molecule of DNA. Everything you cannot grasp is in a higher state of existential intelligence than you are. When you see this, really see this, you are a devotee. A devotee is someone who is willing to dissolve into the object of devotion. If you are a devotee of life, you will become one with it. Don't be an outsider to the life process. Become a devotee. Dissolve. Energy. Following the pranic trail. At present, human beings identify with the body and the mind in a variety of ways. But fundamentally, what you call myself is just a certain amount of energy. Modern science has proved beyond all doubt that all of existence is made of the same energy, manifesting itself in millions of bewilderingly different ways. When Einstein gives us the formula E equals mc squared, he is, to put it simply, saying that everything in the universe can be seen as just one energy. Religions all over the world have been proclaiming the same thing using somewhat different terminology when they assert God is everywhere. Modern science has arrived at its conclusions through mathematical deduction. Religion has arrived at its conclusions through belief. But the yogi is a hard nut who will not settle for deduction or belief. He or she seeks to experience the ultimate through the enhancement of individual perception. Consequently, the yogic tradition does not mention God or deny it either. The human longing to expand is actually just an expression of the ultimate formless intelligence that is the very source of who we are. Instead of trying to find the source of our longing, we try to give it expression in the outside world. Due to the nature of our outward-bound senses, we are deceived into believing that outward expression will somehow bring fulfillment. When you misinterpret the expression as the cause, it will only bring entanglement, not freedom. The sole aim of every individual's life energies is to touch the infinite, the very core of our making. They know no other aim. Your mind may be thinking of money or a new house, your body may be longing for food or sleep, but your life energies are always longing to break the boundaries set by your physical and mental structures. Slowly in the process of living, many people have stopped following the trajectory of their life energies. The result is that they start believing that they are separate or autonomous entities. But separateness is a myth. The content of both your physical and mental bodies has been gathered from the outside. They belong to you, but they are not you. If you want to go the way your body is going currently, you should know that it is going straight to the grave. Similarly, whatever you know as the mind is a complex mess of all the stuff that has been accumulating. The objectives of the mind are entirely self-created. They may seem to be fine right now, but they usually take you completely away from the process of life. So if you go the way your mind goes, you should know you are heading towards an alternative psychological creation. It may be fascinating, stimulating or even comforting for a length of time, but it bears no relation at all to existential reality. The entire yogic process is aimed at aligning oneself with the natural longing of life to expand in an unlimited way. It gives conscious expression to this basic human need. The various spiritual practices in the yogic sciences are intended to assist this longing on three levels: the physical body, the mental body, and the third sheath or layer of human mechanism, the pranamaya kosha or the energy body. Yoga means to experience the mental and physical processes distinctly, not as the basis of yourself, but as that which is caused by you. If you manage these two instruments of body and mind consciously, then your experience of life is 100% of your making. All you need to do is create a distance between you and everything that you have accumulated from outside. Everything that you have gathered in this life accompanies you wherever you go. It is deeply attached to you. You in turn are deeply attached to it on some unconscious level. It becomes an encumbrance because you don't know when to put it down and when to pick it up. It is like a sack you carry on your shoulders all the time. But it is possible for you to put it down. It will still be your companion, but at least it won't be that burdensome. It is definitely possible to create some distance between you and what you have gathered. You can use it when you want, but you need not be identified with it. If you cannot maintain this distance, your whole vision of life will be clouded. Your memory and your imagination, which includes all your ideas, beliefs and emotions, belong to the psychological realm. Life can be tasted and transcended only when there is a distinction between the psychological and the existential. The spiritual process means a return to life. It means following the deep intelligence of your life energies. There are many ways of recognizing which way your life energies want to go. If you disidentify with the psychological and physiological processes, you will clearly see this. It is only when you consciously head in the direction of your life energies that you find equanimity and harmony. It is only in such a stable state that you would dare to explore the highest levels of exuberance and venture into the deepest mysteries of life.